Hi, this is Dr. Mark Sehl from the YouTube channel Therapy for the Heart, and this is the talk 93. So I was thinking about the situation in this United States, particularly in my state, but the whole country, and I was getting really angry, and the reason being that about what our priorities are, and I'm just starting to look at the figures in the defense budget. 590 billion, that's 590 billion for defense, and 63 billion for health and human services. That includes mental health. That's outrageous. I mean, we really need to 590 billion for defense. I mean, we've got the biggest defense budget since the World War II. Do we really need that? Or do we really want to go to war? You know, there's a whole shift of attention because there will be attention away from poverty in the United States, away from lack of mental health services, that the fact that the schools are getting attacked and bombed, and we don't even do anything about it. But we were supposed to reinstate some kind of safeguarding things for the schools. I don't think it was proposed. I don't think it was put into place, the budget. I mean, what the hell are we happening here in this country? It's really ridiculous. You know, loneliness is related to suicide. We are a lonely country. UK and the United States, big mental health problem. Big problem up there with the other major illnesses is loneliness. So what are we going to do about that? Are we going to address it, look at it, talk about it, help each other with it? Help each other be less lonely, or are we going to pass that fact by like ships in the night? You know, really, it doesn't affect us. It doesn't. I'm not lonely. You know, I have a lot of friends. Or you can have a lot of friends, and you also could be lonely. So, in the UK, 100,000 young girls around the age of 14 self-harmed themselves. 100,000. Enormous amount of poor kids. And you know what they said about it? Why? They said that they weren't heard, and also they couldn't articulate the problem. It's hard to articulate the problem if somebody's not really interested or not paying attention. And obviously we're not paying attention. The death rate from the ages 10 to 19 increased 56% since 2016. That should be decreased, not increase. Minorities receive less of virtually all types of mental health care. Less of virtually all types of mental health care. Incredible. So in this movie, Network, that's what it reminded me of, 1976. He was so frustrated by everybody adapting to what the tube tells you to do. The tube tells you to do this, and how to eat, and how to dress, and what medications you take, and you know. So that's what he's getting so angry about. He says, listen to your gurus, listen to yourselves, but don't. This TV is an illusion. We're not telling you the truth. So he told everybody, Howard Beale, I guess it was, he told everybody, here's what I want you to do. I want you to raise your windows, stick your head out the windows, and yell, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. That's what I feel like when I was thinking about this. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. It's just, it gets to be ridiculous, you know. And look at our focus in the politics, right? Where is that? You know, on a wall. Building a wall. My God, you know, how many billions? You know how many, with that 5.7 billion? You know how many people we could feed that are below the poverty line, and help to find jobs and mental health care. It's not a hard thing to do. I mean, I'm going to retract that. It is hard to do, because to address these problems is not an easy thing, but there are solutions. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example of in terms of self-harming. I had a father who was, every time they went out to walk with his son, his son would also talk. He would talk about grades. He was always asking his son about grades every time they went out, and the son didn't seem to be very responsive to that. And so I suggested to him, I want you one time not to talk about grades, just one walk. Don't say anything about grades. And he didn't. So at the end of the walk, and what he talked about? He talked about cars and who was dating who in school, and what his interests were her and him in terms of who was dating who and who was driving what car. That's what he talked about. What would be age appropriate to him on his mind. So at the end of the walk, he looked up at his father and he said, you know, I'm harming myself. His father listened to him, to what he was interested in, not what the father was interested in about grades. Isn't that amazing? There was Dr. Accaroni. She talked about this autistic child, and the autistic child is about 8 months old, and it could not contact the mother, and the mother couldn't, as much as she tried, they couldn't make any connection, and the child just looked away, wouldn't look at the mother directly at all. It's very sad to look at it. And so anyway, somebody was very wise. It might have been Dr. Accaroni, I'm not sure. But anyway, the intervention, the therapist walked into the room, and she looked at both of them. Now, she knew the history of this child and a mother. They had a very hard delivery. So she was really in tune with that. So she looked at the mother, and she looked at the child, and she said, you know, you both had a very difficult delivery. You both had a very difficult delivery. And with that, at that moment, the mother starts to cry, and the child looks over at her, and the child starts to cry. With a connection. Both of them felt understood. How difficult it was for them both to experience that delivery. Empathy. So what can we learn from that? We can learn a lot. A simple intervention like that. Like there's the story of Sehl, and you know how he was eight months old, and his mother brought him into treatment because she thought that Sehl had a problem in connecting. So after she went into the study, and they found out that she was reacting to Sehl just like she reacted to her mother. And Sehl, on the other hand, needed to calm down. He wanted to look away from his mother, not because he was disgusted with her or didn't like her or anything like that, because he needed to have to settle down, and they call it gaze aversion, just to look away for a while. But she didn't understand that. She felt rejected. Like, how many mothers and children are experiencing these things? We will ever know, because we don't have enough money to put into mental health to discover who is out there, and especially who's out there that doesn't have too much money to invest in mental health, and also all the struggles that people have because of the prejudice. 50% hate crimes against blacks. What are we doing? Biggest nation, I mean, the wealth that we have. But it's not our primary concern, not our priority. Some of us, it's our priority, but not as a nation. You can't have it as a 590 billion for defense and 63 billion health and human services. Can't happen. And look at these things that can be done. If we had the money to put into research and help families to cope with these things. There are children who are autistic. They don't have the money to go to a clinic. They don't have the money to, they don't have, their bread and butter issues that they have. They're not thinking even of going to therapy. What's that? Have they been educated about therapy? I went to one time when I went to school, and they said, it's one of those, you talk about your professions. So I said I help people talk. That's what I had. And all these hands shot up, and they said, well, my mother doesn't listen to me. And somebody says, I'm depressed because we don't have, when we talk, my mother and I, we just fight. Look at how much education with these parents, they don't know any better. They're being raised by, they're raising their children like how they were raised. And we often talk about the repetition compulsion and how we repeat patterns over and over and over again. So who's going to intervene and say, oh, well, you're doing with your child with just what was done with you as a child. So don't you want to, can you try to be different? Don't ask for about grades all the time, But people don't understand, how their interactions is affecting their child. So that's what I have to say about the priorities. I mean, we're shifting focus, for instance, like on the people coming into this country, and the statistics say that most of these people are not coming in to harm people, but then they blow that up and say, look at all the rapists and drug dealers came in here. Yeah, I'd like to see the specific statistics. And even so, does it warrant $5.7 billion because of our own paranoia and fear and mongering? It's fear mongering. So you take that focus, you put it on the people walking in, trying to get into this country, mostly trying to escape from crime against them in their own countries, and you shift the focus now. So it's not, our problems are really not how our children are not getting serviced in mental health, how they're being left in clinics, and they have nowhere to go because there are not enough clinics to support them and to give them a good mental health treatment. So let's shift the focus away from us, away from how we're treating each other, how we can improve our interaction with other communities around us, see if we can get rid of the prejudice, at least pay attention to it. At least pay attention to it. And as he said in this, I'm as mad as hell, all you're doing was, you're growing up by the tube, And we're the illusion, being the tube, we're the illusion. I wouldn't say that's true of all the tubes right now. I think a lot of things has changed, but it certainly warrants us seeing to where our attention is going in terms of our time off. Are we thinking about these problems? Are we thinking about these problems that we have with your child and your spouse? Are we thinking about how much fighting we do in front of children? Are we thinking about how much attention we're paying to other things, beyond interpersonal relationships? Well, loneliness, big health problem in the UK here. Loneliness, and loneliness is related to suicide. Some person just hung herself here in New York, and I think it was, I'm not sure if it was a dietitian, I think so, just hung herself. So this doesn't apply to just only children that are taking their life. So if we look inward, we'll see, do we have prejudices against against crazy people? No, crazy people, because the crazy people are often perceived to be out there in the world, not us, right? But we're pretty crazy the way we're treating each other sometimes, It's all the sexual abuse. 25% of our 25% sexual abuse in this country. 25%. It's crazy. We're only human, so we're going to do what was done to us. So if we were abused emotionally and physically, then we're going to continue that abuse, and it's just most likely. That's why I like to work with couples before they come in and have children, because at least they can identify what's inside them. So if their parents yelled at them, abused them emotionally, physically, at least they'll get that. They'll know that that's inside them to do to their child, and they will know it before they have a child. We have to know. We have to look inward. We have to look inward to our own abuses in ourselves, and towards others, and discover our own prejudices. And then we can get up like open the window and say, I'm mad as hell. I don't want to take it anymore, because we're really taking it now. We're being fed a lot of baloney, which is racist often, and prejudice. And then we don't know where to go because we don't know what the truth is. Who's telling really the truth? Who's feeding us what? We get it by the TV, right? So, so anyway, I'm mad as hell, yeah, with good reason. So thanks for listening. And this is Talk 93 of the YouTube channel, Therapy for the Heart. And that's what it is, the heart, because it's everything is about the role of emotions in our life. That's the most important thing, not the intellectual part of it. The studies are also important in learning that, but it's the role of emotions. This is all about emotions. That's why this channel was formed, to see and talk about the role of emotions back in 2012. So, okay, so if you have any questions, you can write to marksehl@gmail.com. Download subscribe to the channel, and if you want to make a comment, go ahead. I'd like to hear what you have to say, and if I can adjust something that I'm doing that is not most helpful, you can make a comment about that too. Okay, so thanks a lot. I'm going to sign off now. Have a good evening. Stay warm. It's really been cold out there lately, so I think it's going to warm up a little this weekend if you're in New York anyway. Boy, about in Chicago, poor people out there. It's 30, 40 below. Whew. Okay, so sayonara. I'll see you for the next talk. Okay, bye-bye.